You're listening to episode 53 of the Master Your Mind, Business, and Life podcast. Wow. That's really how I have to start off this week's episode, because nearly 1 year ago today, on August 22nd, 2018, the Master Your Mind, Business, and Life podcast was officially launched. Today's episode is a solo episode in honor of that 1 year anniversary. And I am sharing my reflections on what I've learned on this journey. I'm sharing some of my favorite thought nuggets from guests, and I'm even letting you know what you can expect as we head into year 2 of the podcast. Be sure to listen to the very end because you'll learn about the 1 year podcast anniversary giveaway that contains a prize pack valued at over $500. You know, it has been a hot minute since I have gone over a review of the week, but you guys know that I don't overlook the love that's dropped in reviews each week. But this week's review comes from mmature0220, who writes, I absolutely love this podcast because Lauren's energy and passion is contagious. She is so real and authentic, and you can tell she truly wants others to achieve maximum success. It's true, mmature0220. Helping others become the best versions of themselves so they can thrive and succeed is part of my purpose. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, or wherever it is that you stream podcasts. All right, I have a lot to share this week, so let's waste no time. You know what to do. Tune in, turn it up, let's go.
You're listening to Master Your Mind, Business, and Life. Conversations with everyday world shifters, truth seekers, and rule breakers. Here's your host, Lauren Smith.
Hey everyone, it's Lauren Smith. Welcome back to another episode. You know, I'm just sitting here in pure joy knowing that I made it 1 full year of delivering a weekly podcast. I'm not going to lie, I didn't know what to expect at first, but you know, I just decided to do the dang thing and dive right in. So it's insane to me that on Wednesday, August 22nd, 2018, I stepped into this world of podcasting and launched episode number 1. I've mentioned before that the podcast is streaming worldwide, but to date, we are in 69 countries. I mean, this just absolutely blows my mind. And what blows my mind even more is that last week, I found out that the podcast is placing within the top rated charts. Now, to put this into perspective, there are roughly 750,000 podcasts. In Australia, Austria, Germany, India, and Brazil, the podcast is placing within the top 200 in the self-care category. In Turkey, it's in the top 100, and in Lebanon, it is in the top 50. And last week, I placed in the top 100 in the United States, coming in at number 60. You know, I was asked how rankings are determined, and it's really based off of subscribers and downloads. So the more you stream and share the podcast, the more it grows. Pretty simple. So many people have also asked me, you know, what made you start a podcast? And I get lost trying to pinpoint the exact moment in time where I decide to go for it. So I had to do a little bit of reflection. And anytime I reflect, I just go right back to my journal because it holds all of my ideas and, you know, just all of my brain nuggets. On February 15th of 2018, I took to that journal to lay out what I envisioned my brand to look like. The entry in my journal was called Reshift, Refocus. And I made 6 main categories within my notes. So they were, what do I want to offer? What topics do I want to teach? What topics do I want to learn more about? Who are my mentors or people I want to learn from? Who do I want to help? And lastly, mediums I want to use. So in the topics of, in the category of topics I want to teach, I wrote down social media, branding, intuition, mindset, growing your business, mom boss, work from home, personal and professional growth, spirituality, consciousness, and storytelling. And when it came to the topics that I want to learn about, well, the list was actually really quite long. It was actually almost an entire page, but it included things like meditation, mindset, money, self-love, anxiety, fear, healing, intuition and ego, astrology, numerology, business growth, and fear and risks. Now, in the category that listed all of the mediums that I want to use, I of course wrote down things like social media, blogging, email, and articles. But the very last thing on my list was podcast, with a big old question mark next to it. Now, on March 7th, I remember sitting at my computer, still feeling a little lost on what to do next. I was working on getting my book, Mindful Love, Bite-Sized Thought Nuggets to Fuel Your Life, together. And I just felt like something was missing. I wrote the question in my journal, in what ways do I want to help people grow? Directly under that, I had written mind, business, and life. And to what level do I want to help them grow was the next question. I wrote down ultimate mastery. It was then that I wrote out podcast equals master your mind, business, and life. It wasn't until sometime in September of 2018 that I flipped back through my journal and realized that I had written out the podcast format in that February journal entry. It was literally all right there in front of my face. The mentors and experts, the topics, the focus. I had set the intention, even though the outcome wasn't very clear at the time. So when I announced that I was launching the podcast, straight up, I didn't have anything ready. I knew announcing it would really just hold me accountable. I'm the type of person where if I'm not held accountable, I'm likely going to fall through with an achievement. So on the day the podcast launched, I only had 3 guests lined up for the entire year. I really had no clue what was going to transpire from this journey or even how I would find guests. No clue. I put my trust in myself, the universe, and I figured, you're smart enough, you'll figure it out. When I think back to what this journey has taught me, I think it's only fair to be raw and real and just flat out say, it has taught me way too much. It's such a complicated question because of that. You see, I've simply learned so much that it's hard to focus on one exact thing. The truth is that when I launched, I just had no idea what I was doing. I have 1,001 things I would have done differently. But I dove in, I figured it out as I went, because I'm a firm believer in just taking action. I've probably said this 1,000 times on the podcast, but when you dare to choose purpose over perfect, when you dare to take that leap, when you step into the unknown, well, that, my friend, that's where the magic happens. I've learned a lot about podcasting in general. I have self-produced every episode, which some podcasters I'll find crazy. But I really enjoy the process, from booking the guests to editing to creating the graphics and audiograms. The process is fulfilling to me because I can use so many of my skills I've either self-taught myself or that I've utilized in other people's businesses over the years. Now, I do have the podcast structured and strategized to be able to pass off different parts of it, such as editing or graphic design and other admin stuff, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. I've also learned a lot about myself. I have also just had the pleasure to connect and dive deep with some of the most amazing people. There have been 3 reoccurring themes within topics, no matter what we are discussing. The number one thing is childhood. I honestly cannot think of one guest who did not mention childhood in one shape or form. It has been clear to me of just how vital childhood is. Learning the depth of its importance has surely made me want to be a better, more mindful parent, but it's also given me a lot of time to reflect on my own childhood, who I was, what I wanted, how I was raised. It's also helped me overcome traumas, blocks, and even generational karma. The second reoccurring theme, of course, is mindset. There's an undenying strength in mind-body connection. One of my reoccurring guests, who had deemed herself the show's residential psychotherapist, Sherelle Turner, once told me that no thought can be planted or placed within your mind without your permission. We often forget that we have so much control over the thoughts that consume our minds. We are a product of what we permit. And we can tap into this inner power that we possess by changing the thoughts that we feed ourselves. The brain is multi-layered and dynamic. The subconscious has hidden depths and holds on to key information that we become unaware of consciously. I'll also lump in the power of the breath in here into this theme, as it's been brought up so many times of how when we connect back to the breath, it has the ability to alter our brain chemistry. The third reoccurring theme is self-care. Self-care can be defined in so many ways, but within self-care, it really comes down to self-compassion, being kind to yourself, treating and talking to yourself like you would treat and talk to your best friend, forgiving yourself, allowing the time you need to fill up your own cup and rejuvenate. Sometimes that comes into the form of waking up early to get in some silent time. It could be meditating, exercising, pampering yourself, reconnecting with nature. Basically anything that just makes your soul feel good. A big one in this self-care and self-compassion category is learning to say no. Saying no to things that overwhelm you, stress you out, or just don't bring you joy anymore. Self-compassion is also a reoccurring theme in my life and something I have mindfully been working on over the past 8 months. When it comes to my favorite moments of the podcast, I've had 2 utter, completely fangirl moments on the podcast so far. When I began the podcast, actually before I even began it, before I launched, I wrote down 11 people who I wanted to be guests. I didn't even just write them down. I made their photos into graphics to really manifest it. Out of those 11 initial people, I've scored 9 of them. The other 2, well, I'm convinced they'll come on when the time is right. I'm sure of it, actually. The first time I was all giddy was when I had my favorite numerologist, Felicia Bender, on the show. I had followed Felicia's work for so many years before that, and Felicia was in my initial top 11 list to reach out to, but it took me nearly 6 months to gain the courage to ask. I am so glad I did because I love Felicia. She is so down to earth and easy to talk to. Our episode discussing numerology from life path numbers to life cycles and just the overall study around numerology has consistently stayed in the top 10 downloaded podcast episodes since launch. And included in that top 11 list, I included a retired NFL player. Now, this particular player that I manifested was part of those 2 people that I haven't snagged yet. But how crazy is it that it's still manifested, but in a way that I didn't see? We as humans, we really tend to overlook the power of simply asking. What does asking do? It tells the universe that you want it. You have set the intention, you follow through with it with an action, and that is something that I've learned to be so valuable. So as you may have guessed by now, the intention for a retired NFL player manifested when 9-year NFL veteran and of my favorite NFL team, and also just happened to be the team captain for my favorite college team, joined the show, and that was 9-year retired NFL veteran Arthur Moats. I always get asked, what was your secret for scoring Arthur? And I feel like I've already stressed this, but I simply asked. Arthur had announced his retirement 1 week before I messaged him, and I just asked him to be on the show. I was authentically myself in the message, and I think that showed. I was probably obnoxiously excited for this one, but dang, Arthur is just such a great guy. I enjoyed hearing a little bit about how he was raised, what he believes as a parent and a husband, and even what he's doing next in his career. I think my favorite quote from Arthur was, "Your mind is more powerful than anything you could ever do. The more you feed it, the more you grow it, the better you can be in terms of being successful." And that's exactly what we're doing every week on the podcast. And it happens to both myself and the guests as we have these conversations. And it also happens with you, the audience. who tunes in and turns up every week for a dose of life mastery tools, tips, and stories that are hosted to truly help you master your mind, business, and life. Okay, to switch gears just a little bit, over the weekend, I gave my Instagram followers the opportunity to ask me a question. I had so many good ones pop up. I think I answered about 6 or 7, but there were a few I wanted to save for this episode because they were just too good. Okay, so the first question was, what do you do to find healing? Now, I love this question so much because there are 2 things I find extremely healing for me. Now, before I tell you, I want to remind you that healing truly is a process. The process within healing can include many tools to aid you. Mine just happened to be music and writing. I swear I understand how Taylor Swift has had so many hit songs after breakups because when you're experiencing life's ultimate highs and lows, writing is beyond therapeutic. Though I am one of those types of people who will also just get in my car and drive with nowhere to go, nowhere in mind, with the windows down and a good playlist rolling. I love music. There's always a song for every mood. The next question, I like this one too, was, do you believe in past lives? I do believe in past lives. I believe our souls have lived many lifetimes. And, this hasn't always been a belief of mine. And maybe it will evolve as I grow and experience. But in the experience that I've already had, there's just too much universal synchronicities to dismiss the idea of past lives. I think that we might need to devote an entire episode to this topic with an expert. I'm definitely adding it to my list. Okay, the last question is, what's a talent that you have that we don't know about? This one really made me think. I have some talents, like I can curl my tongue into a clover, wiggle my ears, flare my nostrils. It sounds super weird, but those are just like some little quirky things. But I have been gifted with an ear for music. This all goes back to my healing, right? So I'm the person who pays attention to movie soundtracks because I think that music can really make or break a movie. Or how on the podcast episode about birth charts with Natasha Weber, we discussed that we have degrees within our birth charts. Well, each degree, each number is associated with a zodiac sign. And my chart is quite odd as it only possesses 3 numbers and they rotate 4 times in my chart. Now, trust me, this is 100 times more complicated than what I'm about to break down. But essentially in my chart, I'm a master of music. And my friends tell me all the time that, I should have been a DJ. They're always coming to me for new songs or they are always playing my playlist in heavy rotation. And maybe in my past life, I was a DJ or a musician, something. Who knows? Maybe that's also something I'm supposed to fulfill in this lifetime. I guess only time will really tell, right? Okay, so if you've made it this far into the podcast, congratulations. I kind of feel like I'm rambling, but it's 1 year and I am just so excited. So if you're wondering what's next on deck, well, I have a few things. The lineup of guests for the remainder of 2019 is just so unbelievable. We have TEDx speakers, award-winning experts in their respective fields, and of course, just everyday people who are moving, shifting, and shaking the world. If there's a topic that we haven't covered yet and you would like an expert to join us, hit me up. Let me know. I'm always down to dive a little deeper. And if there is something that we've already talked about, but you want more information on it, you want me to invite back a guest, let me know on that too. I have loved every guest who's come on. I'm more than happy to invite them back to learn a little bit more about their topic. I know back in January, I announced I'd be hosting a retreat. It's still a thing, guys. It's still gonna happen. The problem was timing. The dates were smack dab in the middle of hurricane season. And everywhere that we were looking for location was like a Caribbean island. And I'm a Florida girl. And there was just no way I was wanting to risk any attendee safeties. We can't control the weather, and to go during peak hurricane time just didn't feel good to me. But if you're even remotely interested in joining me on a retreat, which is of course going to be based on a tropical island, I've added an interest form on mindbizlife.com. Just click retreat in the menu options and then fill out the form. I'll be sure to update you as things start to unravel. I am going to look at a few places, possible retreat destinations later this fall. We are aiming for spring with the new retreat dates. Me and Shereel are going to check out some new places. I'm also changing up a few things when it comes to branding of the podcast. This will be a slow progression over the next few weeks, and I'm excited for this. I always think it's good to switch up your brand and, freshen it up a little. And of course, if you've still made it this far, it is time to pop the confetti, grab some bubbly, do your happy dance, whatever you gotta do, because I am pumped to announce my giveaway. I have asked some of my podcast guests to join me in celebrating with a giveaway for the 1-year anniversary. So starting tomorrow, Thursday, August 22nd, 2019, the giveaway featuring a prize pack valued at $500 goes live. Prizes include this is totally newly released Live Rich Planner by the Budget Mom, aka Kamiko Love, the signed numerology book bundle from Felicia Bender, a business book bundle from Mac Monroe, Seek the Joy bracelet from Sydney Weiss, and a tank top from Norma Jean, of course, from the Stay Wild podcast, and Camp Clarity, which, Camp Clarity is about to have another retreat, so skedaddle over there and make sure you join. And of course, you're going to get a signed copy of my book, Mindful Love, Bite-Sized Thought Nuggets to Fuel Your Life. This prize pack is geared to help you master your mind, business, and life. Every prize fits within one of those categories, and the winner is going to take home everything. We're going to send it to you, but you got it. The entry is also going to be super simple. All you have to do, starting tomorrow, is follow me on Instagram at MindBizLife and look for the giveaway post. Follow each of the brand accounts who are part of the giveaway, and then tag 3 friends within the comment. Boom. That easy. The giveaway ends on August 29th, and I will select a winner at random and announce it on the 30th. Before I sign off, I would like to say thank you to every guest who has joined me on this venture. You've each played a unique part in this journey, and I am forever grateful to those who have used their voice to share their story, their triumphs, failures, lessons, and wisdom. And most importantly, I would like to thank you, wherever you are in the world right now. Know that I feel an energetic connection to all of the listeners. My goal was to have at least one person's life be impacted by the podcast, and it's safe to say my expectations have been exceeded. I am blessed. I'll see you back here next week for another episode that is sure to fuel your life, but until then, remember, every level of life is the opportunity to grow. Be well, my friend.